the Tide Talk podcast. Stacey Blackwood with Jake Thomas. Jake, what's up, buddy?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm over my heart attacks that I had Saturday. Of course, we haven't been with any guys here since Thanksgiving. Got a had a coma Thursday. Ate
Yeah,
too much turkey and dressing, but other than that, it's great, man. Doing great.
good deal. Well, we're excited about tonight's show as we kind of relive what happened Saturday down on the plains between Alabama and Auburn, in the Iron Bowl, better known as the disaster in the Pasture, I think is what we've kind of coined it there on Twitter. And so we're excited to talk about that. The looks like people are climbing in now in the live show. The chat is open. Jump in there with all your comments. We will read them, discuss them. We got a couple things that we're going to hit on ourselves. I think Jake has a few takeaways from the game that he's going to kind of go over and we'll discuss. So it's going to be mostly, viewer or listener driven, however you want to
Hmm.
call it, along with a few points that we're going to make for ourselves. Ty has
Ah,
joined us already. Ty says, "Roll Tide."
Roll
What's up,
Tide.
Ty? Roll Tide, buddy. Yeah, we're super excited about tonight's show. Jake, before as people are climbing in and jumping in the chat, and just your emotions during that game, from start to finish, just the wild events that happened there in Jordan Hare Stadium.
Man, it was a roller coaster of emotions, to be honest. Starting out, I felt pretty good, and I'm even guilty of saying, I feel good at halftime. I was like, before the game started, I was like, by halftime, I'm gonna be able to get right back in my recliner and just relax. And that didn't happen. I was in front of the TV the entire time. We was up next door at our neighbor's house, and I was hollering. I mean, I got hoarse, hollering
Yeah,
so much. But you know, and then it creeped into my mind. We had that great last drive to send overtime. Back and forth in the first overtime. The second overtime, we stopped into a field goal, and I was like, okay, all we got to do is punch it in. We got 25 yards to punch it in. Well, they held us, and then here my thought process was, well, here's an Auburn voodoo. You
yep,
know, Will Rocker is pretty much, he hadn't had a great year this year, but he's pretty much, dead on. I said, but the Auburn voodoo is fixing to happen. He's fixing to shank one, and he hit it right up. I said, okay, we're fine. I didn't really have any fear after that because I figured, wouldn't make a play defensively in those whatever that overtime third overtime mess is. But anyway,
yeah, that is weird. Frank,
hmm
thank you. Yeah, that's
yeah,
Twitter. Bama Nation on Twitter has kind of coined that as the disaster in the pasture. So there's been a few different good ones. Another one here says, "I hate to see the refs win the game for us. We had no penalties, and the refs caught three balls on our final drive.
hmm
Don't believe me? Ask Bo Nix."
I
Uh,
love it.
Golly,
Hmm
look, and I don't know if anybody saw it today, but there was several um, beat writers and other people writing articles about whether it was the what Alabama got away with on the final drive, and just, I mean, unbelievable. How can, after a game where Alabama was called for 11 penalties for 100 and what, 50, 60, 70 yards,
Yeah.
and Auburn was called for like 7 for like 50, can
hmm
they think that the officials are on our side? And by the way, did y'all realize that the last 3 times we've played Auburn, we have set the season high in either
hmm
number of penalties or number of penalty yards,
Yeah.
which goes back to the point we made last week when we were talking about Bo Nix, how it was completely off base that he was even saying something like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And one thing I want to bring up is not we didn't the no call on Jamison Williams before he got
Yeah,
out for. I mean, I think it was McCreary.
there was two
He
of them. There was two
Yeah,
of them.
he tackled him before the ball even got there, and the ref was right there. Incomplete. Like, you got to be kidding me. You know that's
I'll be
for
honest with you. The one and that pissed me off the most was the late hit or roughing the passer call on Dallas
oh my
Turner.
gosh, that was bull crap.
Dude.
Are you kidding me? I mean, how you put tackle a quarterback now?
I mean,
A two hand
I,
touch? I
I
mean, What
I don't know. It's frustrating.
it
You know, I
is.
was I was surprised that not only did Gary Danielson say, that's not uh, roughing the passer, but also Gene Steratore got on
Hmm.
there and said that he didn't see a roughing the passer in that situation either.
Exactly.
Jake Corey wants to know if you're on some red man. I know he ain't on no red man.
No, it's Copenhagen Southern blend long cut. That's I've been on that for years. Uh,
Ty says next time I shouldn't pay the officials in Monopoly money.
oh man,
Yeah, apparently our checks are not clearing.
yeah, but sending to Birmingham they don't get cleared. But but yeah, what was your emotions like, Stacey, during that game?
Oh, I mean, it was like most everybody else, just a complete roller coaster of emotions. I mean, going into the game, I felt like Alabama had a really good chance of just kind of dominating Auburn. But, in the back of my mind, I still had the feeling of, well, it is being played down there at Jordan Hare Stadium, and anything can happen there. And,
Hmm.
over the course of the game, you see that nothing went Alabama's way. The penalties, the drop passes, Auburn players kind of playing out of their head, especially defensively. Uh, so nothing was going their way in that game, and that they somehow still managed to find enough there late in the contest to tie it up, send it to overtime, and just outlast Auburn.
Yeah, another thing that that corrected my mind was when Paul Tossin missed that snap on the on the field goal. I was like, well, that's it. I mean, we had a pretty good drive there, and we got in field goal range, and I'm like, it's just not our night. It don't seem like
Yeah,
I just like it's just nothing's going right offensively. And we'll get to the defense. I've got a couple of takeaways about the defense that we'll get to here in a little while. But man, I was just like, man, that offense. I don't know what was going on. To me, honestly, I know we wasn't getting anything early on the run, but it seemed like we did abandon the run too
yeah,
early.
right. That's
You know,
that's the on offense. I wanted to make 2 points just really uh, on the offense. One was early in the game. I think Brian Robinson had like by the time the second quarter started, just like 2 or 3 carries.
yeah,
I mean, we didn't make. I'm not saying that it would have made that much of a difference, but Bill O'Brien just completely abandoned the running game and just decided to drop back to pass. Every single snap it seemed like, and
hmm,
that was a little bit frustrating. And you know, and not that I don't want to put all the blame on the offensive line
right,
for the amount of pressure that was on Bryce, but I mean, a good bit of it is on the offensive line, but Bryce also holds onto the ball just a little bit too long,
yeah,
and he's also a little indecisive. He has great pocket awareness, but he's a little indecisive on whether he should take off running with it or not. And he's still a young player, so I mean he's still working through that. But that's really my two main points was we abandoned the running game too early, and even though the offensive line didn't play well, we didn't play well at other places either to help ourselves out. We dropped passes. Bryce held on the ball too long. Just different things. It was just really everything compounded one another on the offensive side of the ball, and it just made for a world of problems.
yeah. Get to a couple of these, and I'll see. Mhm.
I'll tell y'all, if I'd seen that dork of an
An
Albie punter
Auburn,
marker,
yeah, that was noted.
yeah. Ty says, bright side. After hearing the nonsense about 1 second after the kick six, we can happily say to erase an Auburn lead only takes a couple minutes. Yes,
That's right. Yep.
yes,
Oh, I would say one of the bright spots on the offensive side, when Dalcourt went down and we had to move Chris Owens back to right tackle. I think his name's Seth McLaughlin or
yeah.
Seth
Seth McLaughlin. Yeah.
McLaughlin. I think he played really well. I
Oh,
mean,
he
he
held
had
his
that.
own for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say he had that one bad snap, but other than that, he knew his assignment, he knew his guy, and he held up. I don't know if he'll get any more playing time this year. It just depends on how injuries go, but
Right.
he looks like he's like a seventh option for us if something happens.
Well, it's all going to depend on how healthy Darian Dalcourt is. I mean,
Yeah,
it all depends on that. He's still kind of day to day. So it's really just kind of wait and see. I imagine we'll know a little bit more on Wednesday when Coach
yeah,
Saban talks to the media again after practice. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see on that. But Jake, we've been going for 10 minutes. We got some people piling in. And like we mentioned, the chat is open. If you haven't already, like, share, and subscribe to our podcast here on YouTube. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, but we're not on there at the moment because we're switching networks and platforms. So there's just a lot of stuff going on with our RSS feed. So right now we're just on YouTube, but you can still find us there on your podcast platforms as well. And you can hit the subscribe button. But on YouTube, you can find us and make sure you do like and share all our stuff there on YouTube. Before we get to some of your takeaways, Jake, want to get to this right here. Justin says those changes in the offensive line late made a huge difference. Proud of Seth for standing tall in a big moment.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And uh, I was proud that Seth was able to come in and play as well as he did, and I thought Chris Owens played well when he got in. I mean,
Yeah.
there's
Mhm.
no denying that the offensive line has been the weakness of this team throughout the entire season. Even more so than what the secondary has been as far as giving
Yeah.
up big plays. The offensive line consistently has been the biggest issue for Alabama. And as I'm saying this, Frank puts in the chat there, the O line has struggled with new NFL style blocking all year. O line coach has not adjusted back to man blocking. 36 sacks, 112th in the nation in sacks. It is all on O line coach, not kids. Yeah, I would imagine. Look, our kids are talented. There's no question about that. And it's not that Coach Marone cannot coach offensive line. He just has not been able to adjust to a different type scheme for this team. So, but there's a lot of rumors, and we try not to talk a lot about rumors on here because about 80% of what you hear is not true. So we try to be careful on that. We're not here to report any breaking news or anything, but we do pass along stuff we hear. It's looking pretty likely that Bill O'Brien and Coach Marone could be heading to Virginia Tech. So that is something to be watching out for over the next couple of days. Going to
Hmm.
get back here in the chat. I love it when the chat is
It's booming.
is is booming. One guy, somebody says Byron Young. Byron Young was a dude the other night. He
Yeah.
played his best game of his career. Trey Sanders picked up a huge block on the final
Yes.
drive. Yes, in the end zone. Great blitz pickup by Trey Sanders. That's the things he was not doing well early in the season,
Yes.
and that's why he was not playing. But
Hmm.
give props to Trey Sanders. His number was called upon because of injuries, and he stepped up and did what he had to do.
Yep.
Ty says, I was extremely proud of Chris Owens' growth and maturity after he was reinstated into the offensive line, mainly because sometimes all it takes is sitting and watching the other guy play to get it together.
Exactly.
That is perfectly put. No need for me to blabber on that. My gosh, I cannot keep up with the chat. So I'm going to do my best to keep up with the chat. I love it. This is
Hmm.
great. I'm not going to display all of them. We'll just kind of read them as we go. Did you guys notice that Jaleel Billingsley was Oprah several times during the game? How did Bryce not see him? I just think Bryce did miss some open guys. I'm not talking about with the ball. I'm talking about just not seeing them on Saturday. I think a lot of that has to do was he was just never able to get into a rhythm until that final drive. I mean, or
Yeah.
really late into that game. So I think that was really just a more of an outlier for Bryce Young. Bryce Young
Yeah.
has seen the field really well all season. So I mean, look, all the greats have bad games. I'm not going to fuss. Bryce made the plays when it counted. So
That's all that matters.
that's all that matters. And
Yeah.
by the way, speaking of Billingsley, if you go back and watch, uh, he hit the seam on that touchdown pass to Ja'Cory Brooks. So that play was wide open to Jaleel Billingsley as well. But
Yeah.
great throw and catch there between Bryce Young and Ja'Cory Brooks to get the game tied. Yeah,
Yeah.
Frank, I agree with you. He says Marone is not adjusted back to college kids versus professionals. Yep,
Right.
that's a great point.
Yep.
It's a totally different ball game. It really is.
Yep.
All right, Chris Owens seems to rise up in big situations like he did in the
Hmm.
playoff. Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I was talking with my dad about that early this afternoon. How we felt so good about Chris Owens going into the season because of how well he played in the playoffs last year.
Hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
Jake, you take a couple of these.
Um, a Facebook user. Sorry if you're on Facebook, it's not really telling us who you are. So if you are on Facebook commenting, please say your name so we can give you credit.
For
But
sure.
they said this Saturday night, where legends are made. I love that. Frank, Young, Turner, Kool-Aid, Mathis matched Anderson, Ng, and that's what we've been wanting. We've been wanting somebody besides Will Anderson to step up on this defensive side, and it's finally come together. It's taken all year for it to happen, but they finally, and that's in my one of my takeaways, and I'll get to those here in a minute. And then Anthony, thanks for listening, Anthony. Bryce is the Iceman when it come or when the game is on the line. I will say on that final drive, it was that 4th and 7 play. Right before he snapped the ball, he just grinned. Close his eyes. I guess he knew who he was going to, which was Jaleel, and he knew it was going to be there. So I mean, stone cold guy right there. Nothing bothers him,
Yep.
and I love it. But um, also, Ty just commented. Also, we got to give props to the Terminator. When Bryce wasn't doing well, he and the D line guys are the same reason we stayed in the game. Yeah, it was finally great to see Helens put it together. His performance was pivotal to our success.
Hey, DeMarco Helms, Jordan Battle, and Daniel Wright played
Yeah,
fantastic. Brian Branch, they
yep,
played fantastic. I mean, they were what we thought they were.
yeah, and for my first takeaway, number 6, I got 6 takeaways. That was what I was going to say. This was the best defensive game all year as a
Okay.
collective unit. I mean, defensive line. I mean, we already talked about Byron Young. Phil Damian Mathis was great. Tim Smith held his own in the middle, and I mean, they had a great, a great game, and we needed them guys to have a great game because we were struggling so bad on offense. Number 5, you just said it, Justin. Looks like DeMarco Hellams is looking to finally be healthy. And that's been like you said, Stacey. That's been the biggest thing. He has not
What?
been healthy all year, and now
And you can tell
he is.
he's healthier because his
Yeah,
speed was at a different level. He
he's
was
sick
play
and missile.
he was
But
playing at a completely different level.
hmm
And I love the aggressive style, like Anthony pointed out.
hmm
They came to play. Agreed. Jake, best in 2 years.
yeah,
I find it hard to. Yeah, LeBron
yeah,
Ray,
it's a Brian
Justin.
Bright. Hmm
Justin Aboigbe, he played.
Yeah,
I mean, every one of the guys along the defensive line at some point in time was in that backfield,
yeah,
and they made it a really long day for Tank Bigsby. Also, great to see Henry T not be over
hmm
aggressive. Agreed, he stayed home and did not overrun plays. He was patient, and one of the most beautiful plays of the game was Christian Harris late in that ball game, reading that outside. Run with Tank Bigsby and just he split the blockers, made the
hmm
tackle in the backfield for a
yeah,
big time play. That's what you like to see from your inside linebackers. You
yeah,
want them to read and react. That's what defense
yeah,
is, read and react. And
and
and I thought that was one of the best games they played in a long time.
and Jordan Battle getting Tank. I mean, Tank. I don't know why he didn't go down, but Battle was not going to let him go down and keep the clock running. He was going to drag him out of
Well,
bounds.
here's my theory of what happened. Tank saw that he was getting close to the first down marker, and
Yeah,
he thought, if I get a first down, the game's over with.
yeah,
Even if I stop the clock, that's what he was thinking. But
yeah.
Jordan Battle was
Man,
not going to let him go
no,
down in bounds.
no, that was
Battle saw that
amazing.
he was that right there by the sideline. And look, that's 2 plays this year
Hmm
that Jordan Battle has possibly saved for Alabama.
hmm
If you go back to the LSU game, LSU breaks that long run that they had, and if Battle doesn't run that dude down and force LSU to try to score inside the red zone, LSU wins that ball game probably.
hmm
And then the same thing happens here against Auburn and Tank Bigsby. So just fantastic to see.
Yeah,
Ty says
uh,
another thing I was impressed with was the majority of the guys on both sides of the ball didn't get overly emotional and discouraged.
yeah,
They encouraged each other and kept, yep, you're right.
exactly.
They never quit, man. I mean, they just we've talked about maybe how this team doesn't have the it factor and whatever
Hmm
that is. You can't. It's some intangible thing that you can't really put into words or express or you know you can't really describe it, but it's hard to see if they have that or not.
Yeah,
Last year's team, it was obvious that they had that ick factor. But one thing this team does have is like Coach Saban said last Wednesday, is nobody wants to win more than these players.
right. Yeah,
I mean, they put it on the line. I mean, they were
yeah.
not. They didn't hang their head. They didn't pout. They didn't say "poor me." They
No.
just kept playing, man. I mean,
Hmm
and the defense. when they saw that this game was going to be put on their shoulders, they rose to the occasion. It
Yeah,
didn't get too big for them. They didn't overthink it. They just kept playing football.
yeah, absolutely. Number four on my takeaways, and we've already mentioned him. Ja'Cory Brooks looks like he's going to be the next stud wide receiver for us. I mean, that was we had that play earlier in that drive where he cut off his route. He did kind of like a little hitch or a little curl, and Bryce wanted him to go deep. But they just weren't on the same page. But that last pass, they were.
Hey,
And
I'm going to pat myself on the back here. Um, I noticed about halfway through the second quarter that they were just playing straight man on Ja'Cory Brooks. No safety help over the top. It was just straight man to man.
mhm,
And I said, eventually we're going to make them pay for that. Somebody's going to see that, and we're going to attack it.
yep,
And they're on that last drive when on the play you're talking about where he runs the hitch.
mhm,
I'm sitting there watching it with my wife and my in-laws, and they said, "What happened there?" I said, "Well, I mean, that's a young guy. He was not on the same page with Bryce Young. I mean,
right,
I said if that's Jameson, he probably runs the right route, and we got a touchdown." I said, "But we're going to go back to that. I can promise you that."
yep,
And it wasn't
and
but
we did.
and we wasn't a couple plays later, and we done it. And props to Ja'Cory Brooks, man. The moment wasn't too big for him.
Nope.
It was his semi version of 2nd and 26 for him on
Hmm.
3rd and 7. He makes the great play.
Yeah.
Uh, Anthony, great point. Alabama grew up Saturday night on both sides of the ball.
Yes.
You know,
Yep.
it's crazy how the team full of young guys can keep it together, kind of like what Ty was saying earlier. They never got down on themselves,
Hmm.
and they just kept digging, and they just kept fighting, and they
Yep.
grew up together, and they got to see what happens when you play for this full 60 minutes and you don't let up and you don't look at that scoreboard. You just play the next play. You just do your job.
Yeah.
That's the kind of things that happen. And look, and before you continue your points, I want to say something. Look, props to Auburn, man. I mean, they
Yeah. Had a
gave
game
everything
plan.
they had. I mean,
Hmm.
their defense attacked Alabama aggressively. Derek Mason had his
Hmm.
guys ready. They were gassed there at the end of that game because of the number of plays that they were on the field. Props to TJ Finley as well, man. I mean, he played a little banged up, and
Hmm.
he wasn't getting any help in the running game either. So, I mean, those dudes played hard too. And I'll be honest with you, I wish they just would have played the game without the officials. It'd have been a more
Yeah.
fun game to watch. I mean,
Yeah.
the daggum near 20 penalties in the game makes it almost unwatchable.
Yeah.
I mean, you spend a third of the game watching the officials make some boneheaded call in the field for either side, and I just get sick of it, man. It's just so frustrating.
And that's just not this year. That's been for the last several years. And I don't know. Something's got to change about that.
Yeah.
But no, my number three, and I think we're all in agreement on this. We still got to find a solution at right tackle. You know, um,
Well, I mean,
uh,
if Chris
Chris.
Owens can play like he
Yeah,
did in the second half, I'm
he
I'm good
did.
with him. I'm good with
Yeah,
him.
I am too. Number two, and this is one of my favorite. This is probably one of my favorite moments of all time that happened. That fourth down and seventh catch for Jaleel Billingsley. Jaleel
Yeah,
Billingsley.
yeah,
I mean, that ought to go down in one of the all-time moments. And I know it wasn't a scoring play, but if he does not make that catch, the game's over with. And the fact that we called his number, he's been struggling all year,
yeah,
and he's had drop balls. I mean, he just had early in the season he was kind of having like an attitude problem. But we went to him and said, "This is your time to shine. We believe in you. You're gonna catch this ball for us on fourth down. We're coming to you." And he
right.
did it. And that right there, I think, lightened. Got me energized. On and I was like, okay, we're okay. And number one, you've already mentioned a little bit. This team is young. They may not have the it factor, but they do have heart and they do have that Bama grit.
Yeah,
And
they have that Bama factor.
yes,
That's their hashtag. They have it, man. I don't
yeah,
know. It's just the culture. I mean, that word is kind of used a lot
yeah,
around college football culture,
hmm,
but uh, Alabama has it. I mean, it's crazy how Nick Saban just continues to have that his teams with that type of mindset.
yeah.
Jessica's here.
Hey, Jessica,
What's up,
thanks.
Jessica? Nice to have you here.
Hmm.
Um, But yeah, so yeah, great points. I love all your takeaways.
Mhm.
It's uh, it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, I look forward to the Georgia game, and we'll talk about that later this week. But
Yeah,
um, it's just hard to let this game go. And I hate this Billings catch on fourth down was when Voodoo Doll died, slow death of 1,000 cuts on the 97-yard drive.
yeah,
I'm going to put that on the screen and leave it there for a minute, just so
yeah.
everybody can enjoy
Well, what
that.
was so crazy about that drive was, we had I think a 98-yard drive that just stalled out early in the game. I mean offensively we was not doing anything correct, but it all just come together on that final drive. It was amazing to see, and like Anthony said earlier, they grew up on both sides of the ball, and moving forward, if they're playing like this, man, it's a different team than what we've been seeing all year.
Ty has an
Yeah,
interesting comment here. He says, I 100% believe in my heart of hearts we're going to see Milrow versus Georgia, and we're going to see the Slade package. I just hope it's a short yardage throwing situation like we did under Sark, and he puts in there that Slade's first touchdown was a pass in 2019. Great point
yeah,
there.
yep,
Somebody on Facebook says the biggest play of the game was when Battles drove. Yep, yep, that's a
yes,
great point.
absolutely,
For our Facebook users, for whatever reason, Restream does not show us your name.
yeah,
So if you're watching on Facebook, just simply either at the beginning of your comment or at the end, just put your name, and that way we can kind of give you credit for your comment. We don't want to
yeah,
leave anybody out, but that's just so everybody knows. Um,
yeah,
where was I going with this next? Oh, a couple guys. You talking about Billingsley kind of being an unsung hero of the game
yes,
with his fourth down catch. There was several of those. Kool-Aid played great.
yeah,
Byron Young, Federi Mathis, Dallas Turner, Brian Branch was fantastic. We talked about Demarco Helms, Jordan Battle, and Job got beat on that 1-on-1, but then he comes back and gets an interception there late in the game, and so it was just nice to see different guys making plays for the defense because that's what we're used to seeing under a Nick Saban defense, and it was very reminiscent of an older Alabama team as far as the defensive performance goes.
yeah. Um, I was going to say before you put Anthony's comment up, one thing that I was just upset about was 4th and 1, and we run it out of a shotgun. Get under scrimmage, let them hosses and whoever, I think it was it Trey Sanders on that play, or was it B Rob before he got
It
hurt
was
on
it, it was Sanders. It was
okay,
Sanders.
let him push him in, so
Yeah, we talked
thanks
about it a
for
little bit
yeah,
earlier, Caitlin.
yeah,
Our checks are evidently bouncing
yeah.
by the time they get down there to Birmingham.
I don't know that they've been. A couple of weeks ago we had the FedEx down here. I think it was in Hayden County, where a bunch of just FedEx boxes were just thrown out into the middle of just the wooded area. Did you see that, Stacy?
No,
Yeah, and they've not been open. Nothing's been taken out of them, so they had to bring a FedEx truck to collect them and deliver them. So maybe they're throwing our checks away. That could be it.
it might be what it is.
Blunt. It wasn't blunt. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I don't watch the news, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
I just seen it on Facebook.
Oh,
So,
okay. Well, if
yep.
it's on Facebook, it has to be true.
Well, anything that's happened in Alabama, in the
Uh,
state, that is.
yeah. Um, any more additional thoughts there on the game? Well, we hadn't really talked about what kind of happened in overtime and the new overtime rule and how you think that is. What's your
Uh,
thoughts on that? What how do you feel about the overtime rule?
the third overtime on is ridiculous. I mean, I think you ought to let them start at the 25-yard line, because if you stop them and they got to kick, I mean, kicking the field goal is it's not a guaranteed thing,
No, it's not.
and I mean
We know all too well about that,
exactly. So
especially in that stadium.
Right, but it was just and one thing that we also have not commented. We're talking about John Mechie. Once JMO went out, they moved. I think McCleary was his name over to John Mechie, and there early on, Mechie couldn't get anything going. But that second half, he finally got some openings. He finally got his chance, and on that winning touchdown pass. I mean, my gracious, what a route that he did. It was amazing. There's no way he could
Excuse me.
McCrary could have caught him. So I was just
Oh no,
that's
and
amazing.
Slade Bolden was wide open across the middle as well.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I was like, man. So there's two options there. But and then I believe Anthony had made a comment about it too. But Kool Aid on that defensive stand. I mean, he stayed with his guy all the way across the field and knocked that ball down. So you know I love to see. Um, Kool Aid get more playing time. But if Jalen Armour Davis is healthy, you got to put him back there.
I don't
In
know
my
why we
opinion.
can't play all three of them.
Right.
I mean, all of them are big enough to play safety.
Right.
they're all like 6'1", close to 200 pounds. They're big enough to play safety.
I know it. Yep.
So I don't know why we just can't keep playing them all. I mean, let the
Yeah.
let the athletes play.
Yeah. And you're right, Ty. the Penn State, the first time they had an overtime game this year, they went to 9 overtimes. Oh my gosh, that was miserable.
Yeah, look, I didn't watch that. Did they go because they kept converting the 2-point
Yes.
conversions, or because they couldn't convert them?
I think it's a little half and half. I think there was some that they couldn't convert, and then there was
That would
some that
drive me nuts, man.
I know it.
It went on just long enough for me
Yeah.
in this one. If it had went any more in the Alabama Auburn game, I'd have just been pissed off and ready for it to be over with.
Yeah. Didn't care who would win. I'm just, it was awful. And McCree was holding Mechie all night.
Yeah.
They didn't
Hey,
call it.
yeah. Frank has. I've always thought that
Hmm.
Joe might be more naturally suited for a safety position.
That's a good point.
He's got good length and athleticism, and he's got really good ball skills when he plays the ball. It's just that at the catch point he's not very good. It's just is what it is. Calling a spade, but
Yep.
uh, he is a talented football player.
Yeah, and Caitlin, to your point, where was the offense in the first half? Well, we have said time and time again, and it was throughout Twitter during that game too. But there is no creativity in this offense. I mean, you can almost predict the first series is going to be pass, 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 punt. The second series, pass, run, pass, punt. I mean, there's nothing creative about this offense that Bill O'Brien's calling. I mean, and then I think the second half we started running trips, putting Mechie in the slot, which I think that's where they need to put him and put Ja'Cory Brooks and JMO outside. I mean, but Mechie in the slot on a safety, that's game over. I feel like.
Yeah, we've talked about how there doesn't seem to be much creativity offensively, and there may be a reason behind that we don't know about.
Right.
I'd hate to badger coaches. It's easy to do on Twitter because you're just on a keyboard, but like, look, as bad as I don't want Bill O'Brien to return to Tuscaloosa, Bill O'Brien's forgotten more about football than I know,
Exactly.
and so
Exactly. And we
you
would
know,
never remember that.
it's just he's working with what he's got. Maybe what we're doing offensively is really as much as we can do, or maybe they're holding back for this Saturday. That who knows? Who knows what we'll see Saturday?
We may have been in a I formation the entire game.
We
Who
ain't gonna be
knows?
in no I formation.
No,
I can tell you that.
no. But
If we line up in I formation against Georgia, we're asking to get beat.
yeah. But I just don't
There,
think we're going to
look,
show anything.
and we're going to talk about Georgia later this week. But I'm going to say this about the Georgia game, Jake. If the offensive line can play halfway decent, we will make plays against that secondary of Georgia. I promise you
Absolutely,
that. I promise you that.
absolutely, absolutely. I have no
Yeah,
doubt.
Frank, I agree with you, Frank. I think we should start seeing the wide receiver trio of Brooks, Mechie, and
Hmm.
Williams because I think that could be a dangerous trio.
I think Brooks solidified himself as a third option now in
You
that
know,
game.
sometimes all you need is a chance.
Right.
Like not only Ja'Cory Brooks, but also Trey Sanders. We talked all season about how he was not getting as many reps as the other guys because he wasn't where he needed to be in the other parts of being a running back, like blitz pickup, catching the ball out of the backfield maybe. But he proved all that against Auburn late in that game. On 3rd and 7, when Bryce Young is, catching the snap in the end zone, Trey Sanders picks up that blitz.
Hmm.
And if he doesn't pick that up, Bryce can't step up in the pocket and hit Mechie across the middle of the field. So I mean, I like when guys. It's all when that guy gets the opportunity, you'll find out what he's made of. And
Yeah.
we found out what Trey Sanders, what Ja'Cory Brooks, what Kool Aid McKinstry, what all those guys were made of on Saturday night.
And yeah, Caitlin, you're right. It depends if Trey's starting or if B Rob's healthy enough to start. But if Trey is starting, then he's going to have to pick up some of these blitzes. And last Saturday was a good opportunity, and he showed out. So
Yeah,
you know,
right now B Rob is day to day, but I mean I would imagine he's going to be ready to play on Saturday.
yeah, he ain't gonna miss that game. I don't think.
Yeah,
I don't think if
but
he's 85%, he ain't gonna miss it.
I do see where instead of playing 10 to 15% of the snaps, Trey Sanders could play about 20 to 25. So
Yeah,
Ty says, I mean, no ill will towards Slade Bolden. He's a great player. That said, am I the only one that thinks Brooks needs to be wide receiver 3 against Georgia and
hmm,
Slade? Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's just simply because Ja'Cory has that. He's just that a notch above Slade Bolden as far as athleticism. He's got great
hmm,
size at around 6'2" or 6'3", 190 pounds. So I'm with you there. Slade does fine with what he's asked to do, but he's not going to break a game open for you like Ja'Cory Brooks could.
yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah, yeah, Ty, you're right. That's the only thing that has me a little on edge is the running back situation. I like it. That
Man, if
Leary,
if B Rob can't play for
hmm,
whatever, man, that I mean that would make it tough. I mean, you're
it
talking
would.
one scholarship guy that's a true running back that's
Yeah,
healthy.
and Leary, I think, was in a couple plays in that final drive, and he was open on a couple of little flats
He
that
he
they
was
weren't
he was
covering.
in on our final 2-point conversion play.
Hmm. Yep. So I think if he'd probably get a lot of playing time if B Rob's not ready to go. So Brooks not a slot receiver, I don't think, because of his height. Am I
Well,
right on
see,
that?
see, see, but what we could do there is line Jameson up in the slot because Jameson can play both and Mechie can play both. So stick Brooks wherever he's most comfortable and what he knows best because he's still a young player. But Jameson and Mechie, they're experienced enough that they know all the spots,
Hmm.
and because that's what they do at Alabama. They don't really set you at a certain position because of your size or skill set. They kind of make you learn all the positions so you're multidimensional.
Yeah.
And so I say put Brooks wherever he's most comfortable. If that's on the outside in Jameson's usual spot, put him there because Jameson's really even more dangerous in the slot
Yeah.
because of his ability to take advantage of a matchup there.
How are they practicing
Well, that's the
Brooks?
question. I imagine where he gets the most looks is as Jameson's backup.
Yeah.
So it just right. Frank said Mechie began his career in the slot at Alabama. Right. I mean they all played the different positions, and that's why I say you put the young guy where he's most comfortable because and where he's practiced the most, and you let Jameson and John Mechie play somewhere else because especially John Mechie. John Mechie, I mean, he could probably play H back for Alabama. I mean, he's
Yeah.
he's been in that offense for 3 full years now, so he understands what is expected, out of the offensive players. So
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Anthony. All three of them do need to be on the field. I agree
yeah,
100%. I think they will. And also, there's not a lot of film besides that last drive on Ja'Cory Brooks for Georgia to explore,
well,
exploit. So,
all I know is that if you do like Auburn did, and you leave a 6'2" or 6'3" guy like Ja'Cory Brooks that has really good speed, has great length and athleticism, can really catch the ball at its highest point with his hands, got really soft hands. You better not play him straight man with no safety help over the top.
No, he's
I
gonna
mean, you're
beat you.
going to be in trouble.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
so I mean, look, Ja'Cory Brooks is just going to get better when Jamison Williams is on the field.
yeah,
I mean, think about
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So
Mm.
that's why, and like I said, we'll talk about this later on in the week, probably on like Friday night maybe, um,
I'm down.
uh, about this matchup with Georgia. It's Alabama's going to be able to make some plays in the passing game. The offensive line needs to give Bryce this much more time,
Yep,
and it's not that they're not capable. They're all really good players. They have the
yep,
talent.
yep.
If they're ready on Saturday, and if the offensive line can play even just a B game, if the offensive line can play a B game, Bryce Young and those receivers will make plays against that Georgia secondary. And like me and Jake talked before we started recording, or before we went live, Georgia's probably going to have to score in the 30s to beat Alabama.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel pretty good about it. If I feel pretty good about Alabama holding Georgia to under 30.
and
So
the beginning of the season, we had like a SEC preview show, and we were both in agreement that we felt like Tank Bigsby was the best back in the SEC.
yeah, as far
And,
as pure
and
talent, yeah.
exactly. So if we held him, I don't know what the final stats were that he had, but he could not get nothing going. So you
No,
think Zamir White's going to be able to get anything going against this defense if they play like they did the other night?
we'll
I, I
see.
don't. I don't think if you get them one dimensional, I don't think Stetson Bennett can beat you.
Well, not consistently. I mean, he's
No,
going to hit a he's going to hit it, 2, 3.
right?
But but to me, the game is about containing the running game, not letting Stetson Bennett, because he is uh, kind of athletically underrated.
Yep.
Contain him in the pocket, make him beat you within the pocket. Um, I think the defense could have a really good day against Georgia, but we'll talk about that later this week. I
Yeah.
want to get back to the chat before we get too far behind on that,
Yeah.
because we are going to have to wind things down here pretty soon as we near 10 o'clock at night. Um, Let me find the last thing we left off here. Frank
Frank.
says,
Mhm.
see a lot of Milrow to running back. Did he ever play running back in high school? Look, I mean, I'm sure he could play the position, but why would you take away from your future quarterback's development at that position when you got other guys on the team that are athletic enough to play running back? That's
Yeah.
my. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying that's not something I would do unless I just absolutely had to.
Exactly.
Anthony says JMO draws double coverage. Yes, he
Mm.
does.
Hmm.
Ty says, even taking off my crimson colored glasses, if Bama doesn't have Young and Will, even as the fourth inviting New York City, the Heisman is yeah. Look, I think that's crazy to think about. Alabama has two, in my opinion, two of the top 5 players in all of college football on their team, and they're both true sophomores.
They'll be back next year. That's scary.
It's nuts, nuts. But that
Hmm.
also explains why this team has struggled a little bit. Our two
Oh
best
yeah.
players are true sophomores,
Hmm.
and so it's just taking time to grow.
Yep. I'll put interject on that in just a second and get through some of these if you want to real quick.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I just want to say, we talked about it before we went live, but next year, even this year, but Dallas Turner, has played outstanding since he's come in, and he was the third string guy when Drew Sanders went down. He come in, but next year, I don't see how he's not going to be the day one starter, and you have him on one side and Will Anderson on the other. I mean, as an offensive line, which one you gonna double team? Because you're gonna have to double team either Will or Turner. The other one's gonna get you. So, but even Will has shown that this year, a double team does not stop him. I mean, that kid's got a motor, and the quarterback still got the ball in his hands. He's gonna find him. You know.
Yeah. Frank says up tempo, quick throws versus Georgia. They have to slow the dogs. Very bright. Yeah. I imagine that we'll start the game with quicker type throws.
Yeah. Little slants across the middle.
Anthony D. Turner getting better every game. He really is. We talk about somebody growing up before your eyes. Dallas Turner, over the second half of this season, has truly grown up before our eyes. Uh, I think he's up to 4.5 sacks on the season. So he's been a really, really big asset for this team.
Absolutely.
All right.
Man. Yeah. And, but yeah, I just I'm excited about the team still.
Yep.
I mean,
Well,
and oh, go ahead.
let me ask you, Jake, and the people in the chat. And look, I'm not about moral victories. Anybody that's listened to me or knows me knows that I'm not about moral victories. But we've talked about how this team doesn't seem to have the it factor. They have different problems. The offensive line's not great. We've dealt with drop passes for whatever reason. The defense from time to time will give up big plays. So for whatever reason, this team has collectively not put a game together.
Hmm.
Whether they can or not is remains to be seen.
Hmm.
But the way that Alabama was able to come back and win that Iron Bowl, it almost feels like, especially doing it at their place, where all the bad things seem to happen every time we go there. Backs against the wall, the team makes the plays, we win the game. It almost feels like, Jake, if this team accomplishes anything else the rest of the season, it's just kind of uh, you know icing on the cake. I mean, it's because I'm not really, after a few weeks, I didn't really feel like this team was had a for sure shot of winning a championship. The chance is still there because of the talent and because of Nick Saban. There's no doubt about
Exactly.
that. So I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying that after what this team has looked like this entire season, I mean, we've had 12 games and we've yet to really truly put a full four-quarter game together, this season.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll do it this Saturday against Georgia and curb stomp the Bulldogs, and everybody's like, "My gosh, where's this team been all year?"
Yeah.
Maybe it finally clicks. I don't know. But what I'm saying is that after the way the game ended last week, it almost feels like, man, if we beat Georgia, that's just icing on the cake.
Absolutely. And I mean, I have a I have a for some reason I feel better about that game than I did the Auburn game. For some reason I don't know why, but I know that Auburn was without Bo Nix and they had a couple of injuries, but still that regardless that defense stepped up in a big way, and that's what we've been waiting on all year. Um, Jessica said, "Justin, are you for real or just predicting?" Talking about O'Brien to Virginia Tech. Well, we're hoping,
Well,
but
we talked about this, the first few minutes of our show, that we had been
yeah,
getting several reports that within the next 24 to 48 hours that Bill O'Brien could accept the Virginia Tech job, and there's a possibility that Doug Marrone, the offensive line coach, could be going with him. So I haven't seen anything official. Of course, I've been doing this, but I'm gonna make a great live show and scroll through Twitter while Jake does the narrating.
but yeah, Anthony, yeah, I just don't know what it is. I feel better about our matchup chances against Georgia than I did against Auburn, and I don't know why. I can't explain it, but you know, uh, Ty also said, name one top 10 team to be able to play like we have and still have the same record. Exactly. That's something, Coach Saban said the other night. If 11-1 season is a letdown to some fans, not any in our chat or here, thank goodness, we're all realistic Bama fans. But if 11-1 season is a letdown to some of these fans, I'll take a letdown every season. And remember, Saban, I think we've only had 2 seasons where we went undefeated to win a championship. The rest of them that we won a national championship, we've had at least a loss. Maybe one year we might have had two, but I just, I just do not see how people cannot love this team, even with all their struggles.
Okay, from I haven't seen anything that's just affirmative on Bill O'Brien yet, but we'll continue to monitor that. I will cry happy tears if that's true.
Hmm.
Frank says, "Want to see the kids play their best game for 4 quarters and let the chips fall where they may. Make Georgia beat them. Test the Mutt's character and make them prove it." Yep, that's me, Frank. I just want them to, man. It's just crazy how they have not put a full. I guess the closest thing was Mississippi State,
Hmm.
but let me just tell you something, Jake. You look so nice spitting that dip out.
Sorry, it got a little stale. But
Oh man,
yeah, you're right, Jessica. We do need the O line to step up this week, and you know, it remains to be seen. But like Stacey said, you give Bryce just a little bit more time, and he's gonna find some holes in that secondary because I've been saying all year I'm not impressed with Georgia's secondary. They have a great defense, and everybody's been talking about Jordan Davis, but was it uh, what that linebacker for them that's
Jacoby
so
Dean.
Jacoby Dean. I cannot think of his name. I was going to say D'Amico Ryans that he played at Alabama several years ago. Anyway, but
Yeah, like
yeah,
20 years ago.
yeah, but that's who they need to be talking about and lifting up because without them or without him, that defense they're still going to be good, but they're not going. They're going. I mean, he's everywhere in the field. So
Well, look,
um,
Jordan Davis gets a lot of love. Simply, look, he's a great player, but he gets
mhm,
most of the love because he's a massive teddy bear. I mean,
yeah,
he's just a guy that looks like a very likable person and just a big old boy. So, he
mhm,
just kind of gets a little extra love. But N'Kobe Dean
yeah,
is their best player.
yeah,
Make
absolutely,
no mistake about it.
yeah,
Number 17 for Georgia will be all over the field come Saturday. And
absolutely.
and Jordan Davis, I mean, he's a big dude. He takes up a lot of space. He eats up some blocks, but
Mhm.
N'Kobe Dean's their best player.
And also for the chat and you as well, Stacy. I know several of us on here have been kind of following what Marquise Mays meant a few days ago by, Saban is. I don't know if he meant by holding back or what, but he's pretty much confident in this team, and he won't explain what it is. So everybody's just. I think everybody's got that tweet pinned to see if he sees what he
Right,
says.
right.
But he may know something we don't, and I mean, he still may be inside that program a little bit. So that you know, who knows?
I wanted to highlight this comment by Ty where he says we're stronger in the two most coveted spots in college football: quarterback and head coach.
Yes,
Look, and that's why I say we got a puncher's chance against anybody
yeah,
because we got arguably the best quarterback in college football and undoubtedly the best coach in college football. So
right,
if you think we're just going to roll into Atlanta and Georgia's going to walk all over us, if Georgia thinks that,
yeah, they're
they've
they're
got another thing coming.
yeah, and like we said, we'll talk about this, in our review or previous show for Georgia. But me and Stacy both are in agreement, and you guys might be as well. But if it comes down to the fourth quarter and it's a close ball game, you have Kirby Smart versus Nick Saban. Who you going to take there? I'm taking Nick Saban 10 out of 10 times. And then you have Stetson Bennett versus Bryce Young, and I'm going to take Bryce Young 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
That's just how I feel. You know,
Well,
so
and look, Kirby's a great coach. Stetson's a really good college quarterback, but they have had zero pressure on them this season
right.
in a game.
Hmm.
So I want to see what how Stetson Bennett reacts. Like, let's just say for instance, Alabama gets the ball first against Georgia. They go down the field and score a touchdown. Georgia gets the ball. Maybe they don't score anything. Alabama gets a field goal their next possession, and about pretty much at the end of the first quarter, it's 10-0 Alabama. How much is Stetson Bennett stressing?
Yeah.
Because you saw last season against Alabama when Alabama at the end of the half made it a 3-point game thanks to a long Will Rockard field goal attempt.
Hmm.
Come the second half, when Alabama when Stetson Bennett had some pressure on him that hey we're not really winning this game right now. What did he do? He started making mistakes.
Yeah.
He started
Yep.
pressing. So I think if Alabama can ever get a lead in this game and start pressing Stetson Bennett, I think it could be some good news for Alabama.
And also, has Georgia faced somebody like Will Anderson, who's in the backfield
I
every
mean,
play?
no.
Exactly. Nobody on the East side can do that,
Well, Jake, they
and
haven't played
does it
anybody.
consistently.
They
No,
haven't played anybody that's got a Fedarian Mathis
nope,
or a team that has two bookends like Will Anderson and Dallas Turner. They just
right,
haven't.
nope. And we're not just trying to be Alabama homers here, but it's the truth.
Right.
And they've not played a team. May Tennessee. Let's just be realistic. Tennessee is the
The
best
best
offensive
off.
team.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they played this year,
Look,
and
and
we
that's
beat
not
them
jo- look.
52 to
Look,
24.
that's not Georgia's fault. I mean, they
No,
can only play the team that's on their schedule. But
right.
it's just true that Tennessee is the best offensive team they've played. And Jake, we got a lot better offense than what Tennessee's got.
Yeah. Yeah, we've already shown that this year.
So,
Man,
all right, Justin,
fun.
that'd be great if you get Marquise Mays on. That'd be great.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
sorry.
Don't. Yeah. But Stetson folded like a lawn chair when the game
Right,
counted. Yeah,
right.
don't be surprised if JD comes in after Stetson. Uh, JT Barrett or JT
Yeah,
Daniels, yeah,
yeah.
struggles. I've been saying they've probably been holding him back, but also I think we've also been holding Jalen Milrow back as well for a situation like this potentially. So yeah, that
Great
was
point.
amazing. By the way, man, one of the best moments in Olympic history. But man,
All
yeah,
right.
I'm excited. We got a preview show still. We'll talk more about this, but yeah, Justin, I'm fully expecting to see JT in this game. I am,
Yeah,
I am.
that would not surprise me at all.
No, and
It would be classic Kirby for him to panic and put JT in.
yeah, I mean food coma brain. Yeah, but
Well,
yeah,
it's also past 10 o'clock.
yeah, and honestly, 4th and 11, that's still got to be on the mind of Kirby. So I think if it's 4th and 11 this go around, I think he's going to punt. I don't
Yeah.
think you'll see that again. But
All
it
right.
was
Well, look,
fun show,
we're
guys.
it's a
Enjoyed it.
fun, great show. I appreciate everybody that was in the chat. We went for almost an hour. We're pushing 10:15. I got to get up super early for work
Me
in the
too.
morning, so we're fixing to wind things down. We do appreciate everybody that was in the chat tonight. Had a lot of fun. If you're not already, subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. Like, share all of our stuff. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single episode here on the Tide Talk podcast. We're excited about the game on Saturday. Obviously, the SEC championship game. So, a big day for Alabama athletics is the football team plays the number one team in college football, and the basketball team plays the number one team in basketball. So,
And they dismantled Miami the other night, and
yeah, they
Miami was
did.
a tournament team. So,
Yeah.
they struggled against Iona, but they come back in a big way in the next two games. So, they're
Well,
going to be ready for this.
yeah. One quick thing on the basketball team. It's not going to be long before we have a game where we're like, yeah, that's why J.D. Davidson was a 5 star.
He showed what he could do,
Right.
the other night.
I
I
mean,
mean, I think he had 10 assists. I
yeah,
mean,
it's
who do you have
but
10 assists in college? I mean, you
he
don't hardly
he's
ever see that.
he's going to have a game here before too long where he goes between 20 and 30 points and 8 and 12 assists or so, and he's going to show why he was such a coveted prospect. But we'll talk about that once all that happens, and they don't play again until they play Gonzaga, so we're excited about that. But
Yeah,
thanks everybody that joined in tonight. We had a lot of fun. The chat was on fire tonight. We need to come up with a name for our live chat.
yeah,
So y'all be thinking of that. Put it out there on Twitter. We would love to kind of interact there and see what kind of nicknames we can get for the Tide Talk chat. So,
yeah.
but we appreciate everybody
Has
watching.
had some new faces tonight in the
Yeah,
chat. So thank Caitlin, Jessica, Ty. You might have been on one before, but Justin has always been great to be on.
Frank is always
Frank,
on. We appreciate Frank
Anthony.
and
So
Anthony. Yep,
yeah. So and thank you guys.
yep. We
We really
appreciate all
appreciate it.
y'all very
Yeah.
much. We'll be back later this week to kind of give our Georgia preview show. But until next time, for Stacey Blackwood and Jake Thomas, roll Tide.
Roll Tide.